My name is Elena, and at 39 years old, I thought I understood my family. My sister Marissa had always been the golden child, beautiful, dramatic, and incapable of doing wrong in our parents' eyes. So when she screamed that my 15-year-old daughter Lily had hurt her newborn son, everyone believed her instantly. No questions asked, no evidence needed. Just blind faith in the perfect sister and immediate condemnation of my child. But then a doctor walked into that hospital room and said one sentence that changed everything. What happened next didn't just clear my daughter's name. It shattered decades of carefully constructed family lies and forced us all to face a truth none of us were prepared for. If you're watching this right now, drop a comment and let me know where you're from. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. I pulled into my parents' driveway with Lily beside me, hoping for a peaceful weekend. The late afternoon sun cast golden light across the familiar front yard where I'd grown up, where Marissa and I had played as children, back when things were simpler, before she became the golden child and I became the responsible one. At 15, my daughter had been looking forward to seeing her grandparents and baby cousin Noah. She'd been talking about it all week, excited to hold the baby and help out. I should have known better than to expect peace when my sister Marissa was involved. Finally, Marissa called from the porch, her voice dripping with exhaustion before we'd even closed the car doors. She stood there in designer loungewear that probably cost more than my entire outfit, looking effortlessly glamorous despite her complaints. Her hair fell in perfect waves, her skin glowed, and somehow she managed to make exhaustion look fashionable. I've been waiting forever. Noah's been crying all morning, and I'm completely exhausted. I glanced at my watch. We were actually 10 minutes early. Lily grabbed her backpack and whispered to me, "Here we go." I squeezed her hand, giving her a warning look. "Be nice." "I'm always nice," she muttered. "It's everyone else who isn't." She had a point, but I wasn't about to admit it. Inside, the house smelled like Mom's cooking, roasted chicken and garlic, the same comforting sense from my childhood. The familiarity should have been soothing, but tension already crackled in the air. Marissa immediately thrust Noah into my arms without waiting for me to set down my purse. "Can you take him? Just for a minute. I need to breathe." The baby was heavier than I expected, warm and solid against my chest. His face was scrunched and red from crying, little fists waving in distress. Before I could even respond or adjust my hold properly, Marissa disappeared down the hallway toward the bathroom, her footsteps quick and purposeful. I looked down at the tiny baby in my arms, his face scrunched and red from crying, and felt a pang of sympathy for both of them. Being a new mother was hard. I remembered those early days with Lily, the exhaustion, the feeling of drowning in responsibility. But I'd also had a support system. I'd had friends, family who helped without judgment. Marissa seemed to be doing this alone, despite living in my parents' house. I rocked him gently, shushing him as Lily unpacked in the guest room we'd be sharing for the weekend. "Where's your sister?" Mom asked, appearing in the doorway with flour on her hands and an apron tied around her waist. She'd been baking, which explained the underlying sweetness in the air beneath the savory dinner smells. "She needed a break," I said carefully, choosing my words with the precision I'd learned over decades of navigating my mother's moods. Mom's lips tightened into that familiar line of disapproval. "She's working so hard with that baby. We need to support her, Elena. This isn't easy for her." I bit back my response, swallowing the words I wanted to say. I supported her. I'd offered to help dozens of times. I'd texted, called, offered to take Noah for afternoons so she could rest. Every offer had been declined or ignored. Marissa had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Even now, at 36, she commanded all the attention and sympathy. 20 minutes later, Marissa reappeared, freshly showered and makeup perfect. She found Noah fussing in his bassinet. I'd put him down after he'd fallen asleep, and shot me an irritated look. "What did you do to him?" "Nothing. He was sleeping peacefully until just now." She scooped him up dramatically. "He's so sensitive. You have to be careful with him." Lily caught my eye from across the room and rolled her eyes. I gave her a subtle headshake. Not worth it. After dinner prep, we all gathered in the living room. Dad settled into his recliner with the newspaper. Mom sat on the couch beside Marissa, cooing over Noah in his bassinet. I took the love seat, and Lily curled up in the armchair at the far end of the room, scrolling through her phone. I'm going to take a quick shower, Marissa announced. Can someone watch him?
We're all right here, Mom said.
He'll be fine. Marissa disappeared upstairs. The house fell into comfortable quiet, the kind I'd always loved about my parents' home. Lily was completely absorbed in her phone, at least 15 feet from the bassinet. I was reading a magazine. Mom dozed lightly. Dad turned pages of his newspaper. Then came the thud. It echoed from the upstairs hallway, followed immediately by Marissa's piercing scream. We all jumped to our feet as she came running down the stairs, her hair still wet, clutching a towel around herself. What happened? Dad demanded. Marissa ran into the living room and snatched Noah from his bassinet. He fell. He fell because Lily dropped him. The room froze. My blood turned to ice. What? I heard myself say. Lily looked up from her phone, her face pale with confusion.
What?
I wasn't even. I walked in and found you leaning over the bassinet. Marissa shouted, pointing directly at Lily. What did you do to him? I didn't touch him. Lily's voice cracked. I've been sitting here the whole time. I moved instinctively between them, my heart hammering. Marissa, that's impossible. Lily hasn't moved from that chair. Don't defend her. Marissa's eyes were wild. I saw her. Dad stood up, his face stern. Lily, this is serious. If you hurt the baby... I didn't. Lily was shaking now, tears streaming down her face. I swear I never even stood up. Mom gasped dramatically, her hand over her mouth. Oh my God, is Noah okay? I tried to think clearly through the chaos. Where exactly was the bassinet? Who last touched him? But Marissa talked over me, her voice rising to a shriek. My baby could be dead. And you're asking questions. I'm trying to understand what actually happened. I shot back. Lily was sobbing now, her whole body trembling. I pulled her into the hallway, wrapping my arms around her as she buried her face in my shoulder. Mom, I didn't touch him, she choked out. I promise, I didn't even go near him. I know, baby. I know. Through the doorway, I could see my parents flanking Marissa, examining Noah while she continued her hysterical narrative. None of them were looking at us. None of them were questioning her story. We need to take him to the hospital, Dad announced.
Now.
The drive to the ER was a nightmare. Marissa sat in the back of Dad's car, clutching Noah and muttering loudly enough for us to hear in our car behind them. Lily ruined everything. She's always been jealous. I knew we couldn't trust her. Lily sat rigid beside me, staring straight ahead, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. I reached over and squeezed her hand. Something wasn't adding up. I'd been watching the whole time. Lily hadn't moved. She'd been at least 15 feet away from that bassinet. But Marissa's dramatics had already convinced everyone. I could see it in the way Mom kept shooting us dark looks through the rear window. In the way Dad had immediately taken Marissa's side. My daughter was being convicted without a trial, and I was the only one who seemed to care about the truth. The ER waiting room buzzed with fluorescent anxiety, the kind that comes from too bright lights and too many worried people packed into one space. The chairs were uncomfortable plastic, the magazines outdated, the television mounted in the corner playing muted news no one watched. Marissa clutched Noah against her chest like a shield while nurses took his vitals and wheeled him away for scans. The rest of us sat in a private room they'd given us, a small mercy, keeping the family drama contained, tension crackling through the air like electricity before a storm. He could have brain damage, Marissa said for the 5th time, her voice trembling with theatrical horror that somehow managed to sound both genuine and performative. He could have died. My baby could have died. I sat with my arm around Lily, who hadn't stopped shaking since we'd left the house. The tremors ran through her entire body, making her feel fragile in a way that broke my heart. She gripped my hand so hard her knuckles were white, her nails digging into my palm, but I didn't pull away. She needed to hold onto something solid, something real. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible beneath the hum of the ventilation system and the distant beeping of hospital monitors. "Nobody's going to believe me, are they?" The question gutted me because I didn't have a good answer. Looking at my parents' faces, at the way they flanked Marissa protectively, at the occasional dark glances they threw our direction, she was right. They'd already made up their minds. "I believe you," I said firmly, pulling her closer. "That's what matters right now. I believe you, and I'm not going to let them make you feel guilty for something you didn't do." "But what if?" "No what ifs. We deal with facts. And the fact is you were sitting in that chair on your phone 15 feet away from Noah. You didn't touch him. You didn't go near him. That's the truth." Marissa's story kept changing with each retelling, like a game of telephone where she was both the source and the recipient, distorting her own narrative with each pass. First, she'd walked in and found Lily leaning over the bassinet. Then she'd heard a noise before entering the room. Now, in this latest version, she was telling the nurse who'd come to check on us. She was saying she'd sensed something was wrong, some kind of maternal instinct, and rushed downstairs just in time to prevent further harm. First, she'd walked in and found Lily leaning over the bassinet. Then she'd heard a noise before entering the room. Now she was saying she'd sensed something was wrong and rushed downstairs just in time. Each version contradicted the last, but Mom and Dad nodded along sympathetically, shooting occasional glares in our direction. I stayed quiet, cataloging every inconsistency. Years of being the overlooked sister had taught me to observe, to gather facts while Marissa spun her dramatic narratives. After what felt like hours, a doctor entered. He was middle-aged, with kind eyes and the calm demeanor of someone who'd seen everything. "I'm Dr. Patel," he said, glancing at his tablet. "I have Noah's results." Marissa leapt to her feet. "Is he okay? Is my baby okay?" "He has a minor fracture," Dr. Patel said gently. "Nothing life-threatening. He'll heal completely, with proper care." The room exhaled collectively. Mom grabbed Dad's hand. Marissa pressed her fingers to her mouth, tears spilling over. "Thank God," she breathed. I felt Lily sag against me with relief. But something in the doctor's expression made me pause. "However," Dr. Patel continued, his voice careful, "this injury is several days old." The room went silent. I felt those words land like a bomb, each syllable detonating in slow motion.
What?
Marissa stammered. No, it happened today."
"Right now."
"Because Lily dropped him."
Dr. Patel shook his head gently.
"The fracture shows clear signs of healing. It occurred at least 3 to 4 days ago, possibly longer." Marissa's face cycled through emotions too fast to track. Confusion, then panic, then defensive anger. Then it must have been from before," she said, her voice rising. "Lily must have hurt him during a previous visit." Lily made a strangled sound beside me. I pulled her closer, my mind racing. "Lily hasn't seen Noah in almost a month," I said quietly. "She's been busy with school and exams." "She came over 2 weeks ago," Marissa insisted. "No," I said firmly. "She didn't. We were out of town visiting my mother-in-law. I have the hotel receipts." Dr. Patel's eyes moved between us, his expression neutral but attentive. "I need to speak with the parents privately," he said. "Just for a moment." I stood immediately. "I'll come with you." In the hallway, away from my family's chaos, Dr. Patel's demeanor shifted slightly. He pulled up images on his tablet. "Mrs.
Elena."
"Just Elena is fine." "Elena, I need to be frank with you. This type of fracture," he pointed to the scan, "is consistent with compression or rough handling. Not a simple fall from a bassinet onto a carpeted floor." My stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this injury pattern suggests someone gripped or handled the baby with significant force." He met my eyes. "I'm required to document inconsistencies in reported injuries, especially with infants." I leaned against the wall, processing. "And if the timeline doesn't match the story, then we have a problem," he finished quietly. When I returned to the room, Marissa was already spinning a new version to my parents. Lily must have squeezed him, or something when we weren't looking. You know how rough teenagers can be. She's never been rough with him, I said coldly. Not once. You always defend her. Marissa's eyes flashed. Even when she's clearly guilty. Lily stood abruptly. I want to go home. Please, Mom, can we just go? I looked at her tear-stained face, her trembling hands. Every instinct screamed to grab my daughter and run from this toxic situation. But something deeper stopped me. If I left now, Marissa's lies would become the official story. Lily would be labeled dangerous, violent, blamed for something she didn't do. We're not leaving until the truth comes out, I said quietly. Dr. Patel returned with more paperwork. I'll need to keep Noah for observation overnight. Standard procedure given the circumstances. Circumstances? Dad frowned. What circumstances? The inconsistencies in the reported timeline of injury, Dr. Patel said calmly, and the nature of the fracture itself. Marissa's breathing quickened. I watched her carefully, the way her eyes darted around the room, landing everywhere except on the doctor. The way her hands twisted together, knuckles white. She was scared, genuinely terrified. Not of us. Not even of the situation. She was scared of what was about to be discovered. We returned to my parents' house near midnight, exhausted and fractured. Noah remained at the hospital for observation. The drive back had been silent except for Marissa's occasional sniffles from the front seat of Dad's car. The moment we walked through the door, Marissa turned on Lily with renewed fury. I want a public apology, she declared, her voice sharp. Right now. In front of everyone. Lily looked at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. No, I said simply. Excuse me? Marissa's face flushed red. Lily won't apologize for something she didn't do. Mom stepped forward. Elena, your daughter hurt her cousin. The least she can do is apologize. The doctor said the injury happened days ago. I reminded them. Lily wasn't even near Noah then. Doctors make mistakes, Dad said dismissively. We all saw what happened today. No, I said, my voice steady despite my rage. None of us saw anything. That's the point. Marissa's lip trembled. I can't believe you're choosing her over me. Over your own nephew's safety. I'm choosing the truth over a lie. The words hung in the air like a challenge.
Fine. Marissa spat.
Then Lily is banned from family gatherings until she admits what she did. And frankly, I don't trust her around children anymore. Lily's sharp intake of breath cut through me. She turned and ran upstairs to the guest room. I followed, finding her curled on the bed, sobbing into a pillow. They hate me, she choked out. My own family hates me. I sat beside her, stroking her hair. They don't hate you. They're just confused. They think I hurt a baby, Mom. Grandma looked at me like I'm a monster. I had no comforting words that weren't lies. So I just held her until her sobs quieted to hiccups. Downstairs, I could hear Marissa's voice rising and falling dramatically, punctuated by Mom's sympathetic murmurs. The performance was in full swing. I made sure Lily was settled, then crept back down. Through the kitchen doorway, I heard Marissa crying. I just don't understand how she could do this, Marissa wailed. I trusted her with my baby. You're such a good mother, Mom cooed. So protective and caring. I rolled my eyes and turned to head back upstairs, but something caught my eye in the hallway bathroom. The small trash can have been knocked over, its contents spilled. I knelt to clean it up and froze. A small orange prescription bottle lay among the tissues. I picked it up carefully. The label read, Marissa Chen, sertraline, for postpartum depression. The prescription was dated 6 months ago. It had never been refilled. The bottle was still mostly full. My hands trembled as I pocketed it. Marissa had been struggling and hadn't told anyone. More importantly, she hadn't been taking her medication. Later that evening, while everyone else was occupied, I pulled out Noah's diaper bag that Marissa had left by the door. I told myself I was just organizing it, but really, I was looking for answers. Inside, beneath diapers and wipes, I found more evidence. A crumpled receipt for an emergency clinic visit from 2 weeks ago. And when I examined Noah's extra clothes, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Small bruises. Faint, but unmistakable. On his upper arms and thighs. Places that wouldn't show in normal clothing. These weren't from a fall. These were from fingers. From being gripped too hard. I was putting everything back when Lily appeared in the doorway, her face pale.
Mom?
Can I tell you something? I nodded, my heart already sinking. She sat beside me on the floor, speaking barely above a whisper. 2 months ago, when we visited Marissa at her apartment, I saw something. What did you see, honey? Noah was crying.
Like really crying.
And Marissa was alone with him in the nursery. I walked past the door and she swallowed hard. She was screaming at him, telling him to shut up. And she was shaking his carrier. Not hard, but not gently either. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't say anything because I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe all new moms get frustrated sometimes. But Mom, the look on her face. I pulled her close, my mind racing. Why didn't you tell me? I thought I imagined it. And you were always so stressed about keeping peace with Grandma and Grandpa. I didn't want to cause more problems. The pieces were clicking together, forming a picture I didn't want to see. My sister, dramatic, attention-seeking, golden child Marissa, was drowning. She'd been drowning for months, and instead of asking for help, she'd hidden it, let it fester. And now, when the evidence was pointing back at her, she'd found the perfect scapegoat. My 15-year-old daughter. I stood, helping Lily to her feet. Go get some sleep. Tomorrow, we're going to fix this.
How?
I don't know yet, I admitted. But I promise you, the truth is coming out. Even if it destroys this family in the process. That night, I lay awake listening to the house settle around me. Downstairs, I could hear Marissa pacing, her footsteps creaking on the old floorboards. I thought about the medication she'd abandoned, the bruises hidden beneath baby clothes, the changing story, the terror in her eyes when the doctor mentioned inconsistencies. My sister was spiraling. And if I didn't intervene soon, someone was going to get seriously hurt. The question was, how do you save someone who's drowning when they keep pulling everyone else under with them? Morning came too quickly. I found Marissa in the kitchen, puffy-eyed but perfectly made up, scrolling through her phone while Mom made breakfast. Marissa, I said carefully, can we talk about exactly what happened yesterday? She looked up, immediately defensive.
Why?
So you can twist it around and blame me? I just want to understand the timeline.
Fine.
She set her phone down dramatically. I was upstairs taking a shower. When I came down, I found Lily leaning over Noah's bassinet. He was crying. Obviously, she'd done something to upset him. But the doctor said, "The doctor is wrong." Her voice rose sharply. I know what I saw. Mom turned from the stove. Elena, why are you interrogating your sister? Because her story keeps changing, I said quietly. Yesterday, she said she walked in and found Lily. Now she says Noah was already crying. Those are two different things. Marissa's face flushed. I was traumatized. I might have mixed up some details. You also said the injury happened yesterday, but it's several days old. Then Lily hurt him before. Lily hasn't been near him in a month. We were going in circles, but I noticed something new. Marissa wouldn't look at me directly. Her eyes kept sliding away, finding other focal points. My phone buzzed. An email from Dr. Patel with the official medical report attached. I opened it, scanning quickly. The words jumped out at me. Compression injury consistent with forceful gripping, pattern inconsistent with fall impact. Recommend evaluation for non-accidental trauma. Elena, are you even listening? Marissa snapped. I looked up at her, really looked at her. At the dark circles beneath her makeup. At the way her hands trembled slightly. At the manic edge in her voice. I got the medical report, I said softly. She went very still.
And?
It says Noah's injury looks like someone grabbed him, squeezed him too hard. The kitchen fell silent except for the ticking clock. That's ridiculous, Marissa said, but her voice had lost its conviction. I held up my phone. Do you want to see it?
No.
She stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly. This is insane. You're all turning against me when I'm the victim here? Dad appeared in the doorway. What's going on? Elena is showing Marissa some nonsense report, Mom said, trying to make it seem like Marissa hurt her own baby. I'm not trying to make anything seem like anything, I said. I'm trying to understand what actually happened. Dad held out his hand. Let me see this report. I handed him my phone. He read for a moment, his expression hardening. Then he handed it back without a word. You believe that, he said. Over your own daughter's account? I believe medical evidence over changing stories, I replied. Marissa burst into tears, loud, dramatic sobs. I can't believe this. My own family doesn't believe me. She ran from the room. Mom shot me a withering look before following her. Dad, and I stood in tense silence. You're destroying this family, he said finally. No, I said. I'm trying to protect Lily from being blamed for something she didn't do. Your sister loves that baby. She would never hurt him. I thought about the prescription bottle, the bruises, Lily's account of seeing Marissa scream at Noah. People can love someone and still hurt them, I said quietly, especially when they're overwhelmed and not getting help. Dad's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang.
Dad went to answer it.
I heard male voices, then footsteps. A moment later, a man appeared in the kitchen doorway, late 20s, tired eyes, worry etched into his face.
Kyle.
Noah's father. Marissa's ex-boyfriend. Where's Marissa? He asked. She called me last night, hysterical, saying something happened to Noah. I drove straight through. He's in the hospital for observation, I said. He has a fracture. Kyle's face drained of color.
What? How?
That's what we're trying to figure out. He ran a hand through his hair. Is he okay? Can I see him? He'll be fine, Dad said stiffly. It was an accident. It wasn't an accident, I interjected. The injury is days old, and the circumstances are unclear. Kyle looked between us, confused and alarmed. Days old? But Marissa said. What did she say? I asked. He hesitated. That Lily dropped him yesterday. Lily was nowhere near him when this happened, I said firmly. And the injury occurred before yesterday, anyway. Kyle sank into a chair, processing. I knew something was wrong. Marissa's been different lately. Different how? I asked, my pulse quickening. This was it, the confirmation I needed that something had been wrong for far longer than just this incident. He glanced at Dad, who was watching us through the window with suspicious eyes, then back at me. Can we talk privately? We stepped outside onto the porch. The morning air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of Mom's roses from the garden. Birds chirped obliviously in the trees, nature continuing its peaceful rhythm while our family imploded. The normalcy of it felt surreal, almost offensive. Marissa's been struggling, Kyle said quietly, his voice heavy with guilt. Really struggling. She won't let me help. She won't let anyone help. When I try to discuss Noah or offer to take him for weekends to give her a break, she gets defensive and angry. She says I'm trying to take him away from her, that I think she's a bad mother. Has she been aggressive? I asked carefully, watching his face for any sign of the truth I was dreading. Not with me. But he pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages with shaking hands. Look at this. She sent it 3 days ago. He showed me the screen. The message read, I can't do this anymore.
I didn't mean to.
Please don't hate me. My stomach dropped to somewhere around my knees. Did you respond? She blocked me before I could. Just completely cut off contact. Then she unblocked me yesterday and called about the accident. He looked at me, fear naked in his eyes. You think she hurt him, don't you? You think Marissa actually hurt Noah? I think she's drowning, I said. And instead of asking for help, she's blaming my daughter.
Jesus.
He pocketed his phone. What do? We make sure Noah is safe. And we get Marissa the help she clearly needs. The front door slammed open. Marissa stood there, her face twisted with fury, mascara running from fresh tears. What are you doing? She demanded. Are you seriously trying to turn Kyle against me too? Marissa, Kyle started.
No.
She pointed at me, her hand shaking. This is what Elena does. She makes herself look like the perfect sister, the perfect mother, while making everyone else look bad. She's always been jealous of me. I'm not jealous, I said, my voice steady. I'm worried about you and about Noah. You're trying to steal my family, my son, my parents, and now Kyle. Her voice reached a hysterical pitch. Well, you can't have them. I'm taking Noah, and we're leaving.
Tonight.
And none of you will ever see him again. She stormed inside, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Kyle looked at me, pale. She can't actually do that, can she? Not if he's still in the hospital, I said. But once he's discharged, we both realized the same thing at once. If Marissa took Noah and ran, getting him back, getting her help, would become exponentially harder. And if she was already at the breaking point, isolation could push her over the edge. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made me jump, my nerves stretched impossibly thin. I kept seeing Noah's tiny bruises in my mind, those small fingerprint-shaped marks on his delicate baby skin. Kept hearing that message Kyle showed me echoing endlessly. I didn't mean to. 3 devastating words. Downstairs, I could hear Marissa pacing again, her footsteps creating an anxious rhythm. Back and forth, like a caged animal desperately searching for an escape that didn't exist. The truth was close now. So close I could almost touch it, could feel it hovering just beyond my reach. But the closer we got to exposing it, the more dangerous this situation became for all of us. Because the truth wasn't just going to clear Lily's name and restore her reputation. It was going to shatter my sister's entire world, destroy the careful image she'd built, expose the vulnerability she'd hidden for months. And I was genuinely terrified of what Marissa might do when everything finally collapsed around her, and she had nowhere left to run or hide. The next morning arrived with oppressive silence. Nobody spoke at breakfast. Dad hid behind his newspaper. Mom pushed food around her plate. Marissa sat rigid, eyes red-rimmed and distant. I checked on Lily in our room. She was curled up on the bed, looking smaller than her 15 years. Did you sleep? I asked softly. She shook her head. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing Grandma's face. My heart fractured. You're not a monster. Then why does everyone think I hurt Noah? Because it's easier for them to believe you made a mistake than to face a harder truth. I took her hand. But we're close to clearing your name. The evidence is piling up. She nodded, but doubt shadowed her features. A sudden knock at the front door shattered the quiet. Sharp, official, urgent. I heard Dad answer it, his voice surprised. Then another voice, Dr. Patel. My pulse quickened. I squeezed Lily's shoulder. Stay here. Downstairs, I found Dr. Patel in the foyer, still wearing his hospital badge, a folder under his arm. Marissa appeared from the kitchen, her face draining of color. What are you doing here? Miss Chun, I came to speak with your family. I reviewed Noah's updated scans last night, and I have significant concerns. This isn't a good time, Marissa said quickly, stepping forward to block him. We're dealing with. This cannot wait. Dr. Patel interrupted gently but firmly. Dad gestured toward the living room. I suppose you'd better. We all filed in. Mom sat on the couch. Dad stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. Marissa perched on an armchair, tense. I positioned myself near Lily hovering in the doorway. Dr. Patel set his folder on the coffee table. I'll be direct. After additional analysis of Noah's scans, I've confirmed something deeply concerning. He paused. Marissa's hands began to tremble. Noah's injuries occurred at least twice, on different days. The words detonated in the silence. Marissa's face went from pale to gray. That's no. No, that can't be right. Your scans are wrong. They have to be wrong. Lily did it, she suddenly shrieked, leaping to her feet. She must have heard him before. During another visit. Lily hasn't been near Noah in over 4 weeks, I said, my voice cutting through her hysteria like a blade. I have proof. Calendar entries, receipts, school attendance records. She was nowhere near him when these injuries occurred. Dr. Patel nodded. The injuries show two separate compression events, several days apart. The pattern is very specific. The room erupted. Dad started shouting about incompetent doctors. Mom gasped and clutched her chest dramatically. Marissa began crying, loud, gasping sobs that sounded more like panic than grief. Lily collapsed against me, her whole body shaking. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tight while chaos swirled around us. "Please," I said loudly, cutting through the noise. Everyone stop. Silence fell, heavy and charged. I looked directly at Dr. Patel. "Doctor, I need you to tell us something. Could these injuries have been caused by an adult's grip? By someone holding Noah too tightly?" Dr. Patel met my eyes, understanding passing between us. He knew what I was asking.
He knew why.
"Yes," he said quietly but clearly. "Very easily. The injury pattern is entirely consistent with forceful gripping or squeezing."
No.
Marissa screamed. "You're all ganging up on me. This is insane. I would never, you can't." She bolted toward the front door, but Dr. Patel called after her, his voice gentle but unyielding. "Miss Chun, if these inconsistencies continue, there will be a mandatory follow-up investigation. Child Protective Services will become involved. I strongly urge you to cooperate." Marissa froze, her hand on the doorknob, her back to us. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. "This is ridiculous," Dad blustered. "You're accusing my daughter based on some scan? This is harassment." Dr. Patel calmly reached into his folder and pulled out printed images. He laid them on the coffee table one by one, scans, medical notes, comparison charts. "This is not opinion," he said evenly. "This is medical fact. These injuries did not occur from a fall. They did not occur yesterday. And they show a pattern of repeated trauma." Mom stared at the images, her face crumbling. Dad looked away, jaw clenched. "I'll be in contact," Dr. Patel said, gathering his materials. He looked at me, then at Lily, and something like sympathy crossed his features. Then he left, the door closing softly behind him. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then the dam broke. "How could you?" Mom turned on me, tears streaming down her face. "How could you bring that doctor here to accuse your own sister?" "I didn't bring him," I said wearily. "He came because he's concerned about a baby's safety. As he should be." "Marissa would never hurt Noah," Dad shouted. I looked at Marissa, still standing frozen by the door, and spoke directly to her. "Then help us understand what happened. Tell us the truth." She slowly turned around. Her face was a mask of terror, mascara running in black streaks, her carefully constructed image completely shattered. "You want the truth?" she whispered. "The truth is I'm drowning. I've been drowning for months. And instead of helping me, all of you just kept expecting me to be perfect." Then she ran upstairs, her footsteps pounding on the stairs, and slammed her bedroom door so hard the walls shook. I looked at my parents, saw the denial warring with dawning realization in their faces, and felt something shift in the foundation of our family. Cracks were forming, spreading, threatening to split us apart completely. But maybe, I thought, some things needed to break before they could be rebuilt properly. Lily tugged on my sleeve. "Mom, what happens now?" I pulled her close and kissed the top of her head. "Now we make sure everyone tells the truth, no matter how much it hurts." That night, a storm rolled in. Rain lashed the windows, thunder rumbling. The weather matched the atmosphere inside, dark, volatile, explosive. Around midnight, I heard it, Marissa's voice through the walls. "I didn't mean it," she kept repeating. "I didn't mean it." I lay there for nearly an hour before I couldn't take it anymore. I padded to Marissa's door. Light showed beneath it. I knocked softly. "Marissa? Can we talk?" "Go away." "I'm not going away." Silence. Then the lock clicked. I opened the door slowly. Marissa sat on her bed, hugging her knees, looking more like a scared teenager than a 36-year-old mother. Her room looked exactly like high school: posters, trophies, photographs. "What do you want?" she asked dully. I sat on the edge of the bed. "I want to understand." "There's nothing to understand. I'm the bad guy. I haven't decided anything. I just want the truth." She laughed bitterly. "The truth? Like it's so simple." "Then tell me your truth," I said gently. She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Rain hammered the roof. Thunder rolled closer. Then she started talking, her voice barely audible. "I can't be a bad mother," she whispered. "I can't be. My whole life, I've been perfect. Perfect grades, perfect boyfriend, perfect body, perfect life. Everyone always said I'd be an amazing mom." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "But I'm not. I'm not amazing.
I'm barely surviving.
And I can't tell anyone because then they'll know I'm a fraud. That I was never as perfect as they thought." "Marissa." "Noah cries constantly," she continued, the words spilling out faster now. "He never sleeps. And I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And sometimes, when he's crying and crying and crying, I feel this rage. This terrifying rage that makes me want to—" She broke off, sobbing. I waited, my heart pounding, knowing we were approaching the truth she'd been hiding. I grabbed him. She finally choked out.
Twice.
When he wouldn't stop crying, I grabbed his arms too hard, and I squeezed. Just for a second, just trying to make it stop. But I knew immediately I'd hurt him. I felt his bone move under my fingers, and her whole body convulsed with sobs. I didn't mean to hurt him. I love him so much. But in those moments, I wasn't myself. I was someone else. Someone scary. I sat frozen, horrified and heartbroken in equal measure. This was my sister. My infuriating, dramatic, attention-seeking sister. And she was breaking apart in front of me. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked softly. "Why didn't you ask for help?" "Because asking for help means admitting I'm failing. And I can't fail. Perfect people don't fail. Nobody's perfect, Marissa." "You are," she said bitterly. "You've always been the strong one. The capable one. You made being a mom look easy." I almost laughed.
Easy?
"Marissa, I cried every day for the first 6 months after Lily was born. I felt completely lost and overwhelmed. I just didn't show it because I thought I had to be strong." She looked at me surprised. "Really? Really? Motherhood is hard. And it's okay to struggle. It's okay to need help. But it's not okay to hurt your child and then blame someone else." Her face crumpled. "I know.
God, I know."
That's the worst part. When I saw that everyone believed Lily had hurt him, some terrible part of me felt relieved. Like I'd been given an escape. And I took it. I let everyone blame her even though I knew it wasn't true. She grabbed my hands, her grip desperate. "Please don't let them take Noah away from me. Please, Elena. I know I messed up. I know I need help. But please don't let them take my baby." Before I could respond, the door flew open. Mom stood there, her face pale and shocked. "I heard everything," she whispered. Marissa's eyes went wide with panic. "Mom, it's not—" Elena was putting words in my mouth. She was. "Stop," Mom said, her voice trembling. "Just stop lying, Marissa." But instead of the empathy I expected, Mom turned on me, her expression hardening. "How could you manipulate her like this? Forcing a confession when she's clearly exhausted and emotional." I stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious right now?" "You've always been jealous of your sister," Mom continued, her voice rising. "And now you're trying to destroy her." "I'm trying to protect a baby," I shot back. "And my daughter, who you all convicted without evidence." Dad appeared behind Mom, his face dark with anger. "What's going on in here?" "Elena forced a confession out of Marissa," Mom said quickly. Marissa had gone completely silent, her face blank with shock at how quickly the story was being rewritten. "That's not what happened," I said firmly. "Marissa admitted she hurt Noah. She told me herself. She needs help." "Help." Dad's voice dripped with sarcasm. Or are you trying to get her arrested? I couldn't believe this. Even with the truth spoken aloud, they were finding ways to twist it, to protect their golden child at all costs. Downstairs, I heard the front door open. Kyle's voice called up. Hello? Marissa? I came back to check on Noah. And suddenly, Marissa moved. She pushed past Mom and ran from the room, her footsteps thundering down the stairs. I'm taking Noah home, she screamed. Right now. And none of you will ever see him again. But Noah was still at the hospital. I chased after her, my parents following, and found her in the foyer, grabbing her keys with shaking hands, sobbing hysterically. Marissa, stop, Kyle said, stepping forward. You're not thinking clearly. Everyone's against me, she shrieked. Even my own family. That's not true, I said. We want to help you, but you have to accept that help. She looked at me, her eyes wild and desperate. If I accept help, they'll take him away. If you don't accept help, I said quietly, you might hurt him again. Or worse. The words hung in the air, terrible and true. Marissa's face crumpled. She sank to the floor, still clutching her keys, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. I can't lose him, she whispered.
He's all I have.
I knelt beside her, despite everything, and pulled my sister into my arms. She clung to me like a drowning person clings to a life raft, and I held her while she fell apart. Over her head, I saw Kyle's stricken face, my parents' shocked expressions, and through the doorway, Lily watching silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. This was the truth we'd all been avoiding. The truth that had been hiding beneath drama and accusations and family loyalty. And now that it was exposed, raw and painful and undeniable, I had no idea how to fix it. Marissa remained on the floor for what felt like hours. Then she pushed away from me, her expression shifting to frantic determination. I need to see Noah. I need to bring him home. Marissa, Kyle started. He needs me. I'm his mother. Before anyone could stop her, she ran outside into the rain. Marissa, Kyle shouted, chasing after her. I grabbed my keys and yelled back. Stay with Lily. Outside, rain soaked through my clothes. I found Marissa in her car, gripping the steering wheel. Engine off. She sobbed so hard, she couldn't catch her breath. Kyle stood beside her door, talking through the window. You can't drive like this. I approached slowly. I could see her through the window, completely broken, hands shaking. I tapped on the window. She looked at me, and I saw something shift in her eyes. Not anger anymore, just absolute terror. Give him to me, I said through the glass, keeping my voice steady. Before you drop him again. It was a test. A reminder of what she'd claimed had happened, knowing now it was a lie. Something in her shattered completely. She opened the door and stumbled out into the rain, falling against me, her legs unable to hold her weight. I'm scared. She sobbed against my shoulder. Elena, I'm so scared. I'm scared of myself. I'm scared of what I might do. I'm scared I'm going to hurt him, and I won't even realize it until it's too late. Kyle moved closer, his face etched with concern. Marissa, listen to me. We're going to get you help. Real help. But you have to let us. They'll take him away, she whispered. If I admit I'm not capable, they'll take him away. They'll take him away if you don't get help, I said firmly. Right now, you're a danger to him. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. She pulled back, looking at me with red, swollen eyes. What do? You tell the truth. All of it. To Dr. Patel, to the social worker, to everyone who needs to hear it. And then you get treatment. What if it's not enough? Her voice broke. What if I can't be fixed? Then we figure it out together, Kyle said softly. But you don't run. You don't hide. And you sure as hell don't blame a 15-year-old kid for your mistakes. Marissa closed her eyes, rain washing away tears and makeup, leaving her looking raw and young and vulnerable. Okay, she whispered. Okay. We guided her back inside, drenched and shivering. Mom met us at the door with towels, her face ashen. Is she? She's going to talk to Dr. Patel tomorrow, I said. and a social worker. She's going to tell them everything. Dad stood in the hallway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. For the first time since this nightmare began, doubt clouded his features. Kyle helped Marissa upstairs to change into dry clothes. Mom and Dad hovered uncertainly, their denial finally cracking under the weight of reality. "I can't believe this is happening," Mom said, sinking onto the couch. "Not to Marissa. She's always been so capable, so together." "Nobody's always together, Mom," I said quietly. "People struggle. They need help. And when we pretend they're perfect, we make it impossible for them to ask for it." Dad cleared his throat. "We should have seen the signs." "Yes," I agreed. "You should have. But you were too busy defending her to actually help her." The words were harsh, but necessary. They needed to hear it. Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, wrapped in a blanket. "Is Aunt Marissa okay?" "She will be," I said. "Eventually." Marissa emerged from her room, wearing sweatpants and one of Kyle's old college sweatshirts, looking small and defeated. Kyle stood beside her protectively. "I need to say something," Marissa said, her voice hoarse. She looked directly at Lily.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
"I lied about you. I let everyone think you hurt Noah when I knew you didn't. I was scared and selfish, and I threw you under the bus to save myself." Lily descended the stairs slowly, stopping a few steps from the bottom.
Why?
"Because I'm not as strong as everyone thinks I am," Marissa said simply. "And I thought if I admitted that, I'd lose everything. But I lost so much more by lying." Lily looked at me, uncertainty in her eyes. I nodded slightly. "It's okay to accept this." "Thank you," Lily said quietly, "for telling the truth." That night, we all stayed up late, talking for the first time in years, really talking. Marissa admitted she'd been struggling since Noah's birth. Kyle confessed he'd suspected something was wrong, but didn't know how to help. My parents acknowledged they'd been enabling Marissa's worst impulses by never holding her accountable. And me? I admitted I'd been carrying resentment for decades, always being the responsible one while Marissa got all the praise. It wasn't pretty. There were tears, raised voices, painful acknowledgments. But it was real. Finally, brutally real. As dawn broke, Marissa called Dr. Patel herself and scheduled a meeting. She called a therapist Kyle recommended. She agreed to supervised visitation with Noah until a professional deemed her safe. She was taking the first real steps toward healing, toward becoming the mother Noah needed, not the perfect image she thought she had to be. And though the road ahead looked long and difficult, at least we were finally walking it together, with truth as our guide instead of lies. 3 days later, we drove to the hospital for Noah's final assessment. The tension in the car was different now, not the sharp, accusatory tension from before, but something heavier. Anticipatory. Fearful of what came next. Marissa sat beside me, picking at her cuticles nervously. She'd barely slept. Dark circles shadowed her eyes despite the makeup she'd carefully applied for the doctors and social worker. "What if they won't let me see him?" she whispered, her voice cracking with genuine fear. "Then we'll work toward that privilege," I said firmly and gently. "One step at a time. We'll earn it back." Kyle drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, clearly worried about the uncertain outcome. Lily sat quietly in the passenger seat, processing everything. My parents followed in their car, subdued and uncertain of their role in all this. At the hospital, we gathered in a private consultation room. Noah was there, in his carrier, sleeping peacefully. Marissa's breath caught when she saw him, tears immediately springing to her eyes. "Can I?" "Not yet," Kyle said gently. "Let's hear what they have to say first." Dr. Patel entered with a woman in her 40s wearing professional attire and a kind but serious expression. She introduced herself as Michelle Torres, a pediatric social worker. Everyone sat, the room feeling too small for all our collective anxiety. "First," Ms. Torres said, "I want to thank everyone for cooperating with this process. I know it's been difficult." Marissa nodded, her hands trembling in her lap. "Marissa, Ms. Torres continued, addressing her directly. You were honest with me and Dr. Patel yesterday about your struggles and about what happened with Noah. That took courage. It was the least I could do, Marissa said quietly. After everything. Dr. Patel opened his folder. I'll give you the medical update first, and then we'll discuss next steps. We all leaned forward slightly, holding our breath. Noah's fractures are healing well, he said, and relief rippled through the room. With proper care and monitoring, he should make a complete physical recovery. Thank God, Marissa breathed. Dr. Patel's expression softened. There's something else I need to tell you. All of you. He looked around the room, his gaze settling on each of us in turn before landing on me and Lily. Whoever brought Noah in when they did, he said, saved his life. The room went completely still.
What?
Mom whispered. Dr. Patel nodded seriously. Compression injuries like Noah's can worsen rapidly if left untreated. The fractures were beginning to affect surrounding tissue. If they'd gone unaddressed for even another day or two, the complications could have been severe, possibly leading to permanent damage or, in worst-case scenarios, life-threatening infection. He looked directly at Lily. You didn't hurt this baby. You saved him. By insisting something was wrong, by refusing to let it go despite the accusations against you, you quite possibly saved his life. Lily's face crumpled. She turned into my shoulder, sobbing with relief and release of days of pent-up guilt and pain. I held her tight, my own tears falling freely now. You hear that, baby? You saved him. I'm so sorry, Mom said suddenly, standing up. Her voice cracked. Lily, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. We should have believed you. We should have protected you. And instead She couldn't finish. Dad stood beside her, his eyes wet, the first time I'd seen him cry in decades. We failed you, Dad said hoarsely. We let our own blindness hurt you. And that's unforgivable. Lily lifted her head from my shoulder, looking at her grandparents with red, swollen eyes. I just wanted you to believe me.
We do now, Mom said.
And, if you'll let us, we want to make this right. However long it takes. Marissa stood shakily, crossing the room to where Lily sat. She knelt in front of her niece, looking up at her with genuine remorse. You're the hero in this story, Marissa said, her voice thick with emotion. Not me. I almost destroyed you to hide my own failures. And you still stood up for the truth. You're braver at 15 than I've ever been. Lily looked at her aunt for a long moment, then nodded slightly. Not forgiveness yet, that would take time, but acknowledgement. A first step. Ms. Torres cleared her throat gently. Now, let's discuss the care plan going forward. She outlined it systematically. Marissa would begin intensive therapy immediately, both individual and group sessions for postpartum mental health. Noah would stay with Kyle for the next month, with supervised visitation for Marissa 3 times a week, gradually increasing. There would be weekly check-ins with both the social worker and Dr. Patel. Medication adjustments under psychiatric supervision. It was structured, clinical, necessary. The goal isn't to punish you, Ms. Torres told Marissa. The goal is to ensure both you and Noah are safe and healthy. Many mothers struggle with postpartum mental health issues. With proper treatment and support, most make full recoveries. What if I don't? Marissa asked, voicing her deepest fear. What if I get him back and I hurt him again? Then we have safeguards in place, Ms. Torres said. But you've already taken the hardest step, admitting you need help. That's where real change begins. After the meeting, we were allowed a few minutes with Noah. Marissa held him carefully, supervised, tears streaming down her face as she whispered apologies to her sleeping son. I'm going to be the mother you deserve, she promised. It might take time, but I'm going to do it right this time. Lily stood beside me, watching. Do you think she will get better? I think she has a real chance now, I said. Because the truth is out. The secrets are gone. And that's where healing starts. As we walked out to the parking lot, Lily slipped her hand into mine. Mom? Yeah. Was it really not my fault? Like, really truly? I stopped walking and turned to face her, cupping her face in my hands. Listen to me. It was never your fault. Not for one single second. You did everything right. You questioned what didn't make sense. You stood by the truth even when everyone turned against you. And because of that, because of your courage, Noah is going to be okay. She hugged me tight, and I felt her shoulders finally relax, the tension she'd been carrying for days finally releasing. In the car on the drive home, the atmosphere was different. Lighter. Still complicated, still painful, but no longer suffocating under the weight of lies. My phone buzzed. A text from Marissa. Thank you for not giving up. On me or on the truth. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm grateful you're giving me one. I typed back. We're family.
We don't give up on family.
But we also don't enable them anymore. You've got hard work ahead. Her response came quickly, I know.
And I'm ready.
That evening, back at my parents' house, we ordered pizza and sat around the dining table. For the first time in years, maybe decades, we talked openly. About expectations and pressure. About perfectionism and failure. About the damage we'd done to each other through silence and denial. It wasn't comfortable. Growth never is. But it was necessary. As night fell, I found Lily on the back porch, looking up at the stars, thinking deep thoughts. I asked, joining her. Just thinking about how fast everything changed, she said. A week ago, everyone thought I was a monster. Now they're calling me a hero. You're neither, I said. You're just Lily. A good person who did the right thing when it was hard. She smiled slightly. That's what heroes are, though, right? I laughed softly. I guess so. She leaned against me, and we sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of the neighborhood. Inside, through the window, I could see my parents cleaning up, moving around each other with new awareness. Kyle had stayed for dinner, and he sat at the table looking at photos of Noah on his phone, planning for the weeks ahead. And somewhere across town, Marissa was probably lying in her childhood bed, facing the terrifying prospect of rebuilding herself from scratch. It would take time. Months, maybe years. The scars from this week wouldn't fade quickly. But for the first time in my family's history, we were all facing the truth together. No more golden children and scapegoats. No more denial and enabling. Just flawed, complicated people trying to do better. Mom, Lily said quietly. Yeah, honey? I'm glad we didn't leave. Even though it was awful. I'm glad we stayed and fought for the truth. I kissed the top of her head. Me too, baby. Me too. Later, as I tucked Lily into bed, she asked one more question. Will we be okay? Like, as a family? I thought about it honestly. We'll be different. Some relationships might never be what they were. But different doesn't mean broken. Sometimes different means stronger. Real instead of perfect. She nodded, satisfied with that answer, and closed her eyes. I stood in the doorway watching her for a moment, my brave, truthful, remarkable daughter, and felt overwhelming gratitude that I'd raised her to stand up for what's right, even when it costs her something. That night, lying in my own bed, I thought about Dr. Patel's words. Whoever brought him in saved his life. Sometimes salvation doesn't look like dramatic rescues. Sometimes it looks like a teenage girl who refuses to accept a lie. A mother who pushes for evidence instead of accepting blame. A family that finally, painfully, learns to choose truth over comfort. Noah was safe. Lily was vindicated. Marissa was getting help. It wasn't a happy ending. Not yet. Maybe never in the traditional sense. But it was an honest one. And sometimes that's the best kind of ending there is. When the people you love most choose comfortable lies over painful truths, how far would you go to protect the innocent, even if it means destroying the family you once knew? If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about family, truth, and the courage it takes to do what's right.